Why is it exciting to you? Good Lord. On this episode of AVWeek, we wrap up Enterprise Connect, the annual look at the UC space, also manufacturing in North America, and all the things that we were thankful for from our neighbors up north. All that and more next on AVWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 606, recorded Friday, March 31st, 2023. Thanks, Canada. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, we'll start the international round first. Bren Walker from Kirkegaard. She's in Canada. Technically, it's international. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and happy to be coming to you from Salt Spring Island in British Columbia.
Indeed. That just sounds exotic. So,
it is.
Island, yeah. Jessica Weiss, this is her first time on a regular AV Week, I should say that. Jessica is from OneFirefly, so welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. And last but not least, a young man who is coming back for more abuse. To give us more of his insight, Derek Joncas from Extron. Welcome, sir.
Great to have that wonderful intro, Tim, and nice to be back, and looking forward to today.
You should also take a look coming out probably 3 or 4 weeks. Derek and I just recorded a special, an AVNation special on Extron's, some of the new stuff that they have coming out. So check for that as well. First story is a big one. Trade shows are coming back. I cannot tell you one way or the other how much they're coming back, but certainly we're still having them, right? Some folks are simply not traveling, and that's okay. Awesome groupie. Good portion is. And Enterprise Connect happened this week, 27th through the 30th of March. We were recording this on March 31st, so it just ended yesterday. If you're not familiar with Enterprise Connect, it is 100% an end-user focused show. Yes, there are dealers there, but there is an awful lot of AV manufacturers and partners there as well. Zoom is there. You've got a lot of folks that you would normally see at Infocom, at ISE, at CEDIA that happen to be at this show because that's the market that they're at. Happens in Orlando at the
Gaylord.
Gaylord, thank you, Derek. At the Gaylord, I almost said the Grand Ole Opry. That's not right.
Wrong city. Different tour.
Yeah. And it from what I can tell and what the feedback I've gotten, the show actually grew a little bit from last year's attendance, so that's 100% good. In addition, it's turned into a launching pad for a number of folks, including Microsoft, right? Including Zoom, including a bunch of these folks that are 100% dialed into the UC space. Zoom had some announcements this week. Big ones from that are on my list: Microsoft Teams integration with ChatGPT. We knew this already, but it was a big announcement there. Zoom also getting into the AI space with their OpenAI partnership. Call analytics from AWS, which was an interesting play for me. The fact that Amazon is getting into even more into this space. The OWL Labs, if you are familiar with the OWL Labs, they've got what used to be a one-note play. It was an owl that had a camera in it. Well, now they've released and come out with a soundboard, so good for them. It's a little bit of a departure from their typical their typical solutions. Derek, I'm going to start with you on this, both from a manufacturing standpoint, and Derek lives in programming world, which is, I like having smart friends. What were some of the things that come out of it this week for you?
I think the biggest things that came out this week were some of those platform announcements.
Okay.
With Microsoft, kind of echo what you're saying with Microsoft and Zoom, AWS being either having their own keynote or being part of keynotes was important. A big part of the Enterprise Connect show, which makes it, I think, really accessible for the people that own their technology and users, is that there's a really big education component. In fact, the show floor has really different hours than a typical Infocom. In Infocom, you have education opportunities and trade show activities at the same time. You're running around. But Enterprise Connect, at least for all the years that I've been involved in one way or another. That education component, that kind of industry advocacy component, is it has its special times and places, and then building relationships with the people that develop the technologies that you're using in your enterprise, for example. Yep. And that's nice to be able to see them on the show floor. So for us, we had a hand in some things that were shown there and demonstrated through some of our technology partnerships and integrations. So from what I hear from the people that attended and from feedback from others, I think they really enjoyed the show this year.
Good.
That's what I'm understanding.
Bren, same kind of question as you're looking at, at this not only from a design standpoint, but also, Kirkegaard has several offices, so actually a user as well. What were some of the things that you took away from this week's announcements?
Well, I guess the big thing for me was that, and even in your recap of what your highlights is, it's all majority software focused. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, we are well past the point of having that conversation about hardware versus software. The software, the day of the software codec is here. And it's the thing that even in our design work that we find where the challenges really start to hit home for our users and for our clients is once the system is done, installed, great, commissioned, everything looks awesome. And then you have a firmware update, right? And all of a sudden things stop working. And so that emphasis on education, I think, is crucial. And I think that we as an industry have to do more to embrace that part of AV as being a part of what we own in our domain. And the interactions that our customers have, even though we don't produce that software, matters to us a great deal. And it's incumbent upon us to understand how those things work. I think last time I was on, we talked about AI, and I mentioned that we started to use it ourselves to see how it can improve our processes, because that's what's going to put us in the best position to recommend it to clients. So, and I think that is, the whole idea of AI and how it factors into the enterprise world. We can say it's early days. I think we're already well past early days. Like this is going to be like the Zoom level adoption that happened during COVID, where we're just going to turn around and all of a sudden it's a natural part of what we're all doing. So
let me ask this generically. It's two questions. First of all, and if you're breaking an NDA or you're going to get fired, don't answer, right? But there's 4 people on this panel, and I'll be the first one to say, I use AI in my everyday job. Is everybody else here on that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So all four of us. Now, you can send me an email later, and I can tell you how, right? I'm not going to go into it here. But so Bren makes a very good point here. At the same time, in the same week, there was an article released where Elon Musk and some other technologists are raising an alarm saying, hey, wait a minute, we should put this genie back in the bottle. Is to use an old phrase from my grandfather, is that horse out of the barn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think we only heard about that because Elon signed it.
Well,
and
that's true. Okay.
And he's trying to get some white hat action going on. So
as he destroys Twitter. As he helps make Twitter better. Jessica, from your perspective, what were some of the things that kind of interested you this week coming out of Orlando?
Yeah, just to echo what everyone else is saying, it's less and less focus on the hardware and all about the software. AI is here. I couldn't agree more with Bren that it is definitely, we're not in the early stages. Folks, we're in it. And I truly believe, and our stance here is that the world will never be the same. The horse has definitely left the barn, and we feel that this industry and especially our end users, like businesses, including marketing agencies like our own, you either learn to adopt and work with this AI and you work to make better processes and products and solutions and experiences for your environment, or you're going to get left behind, right? This is horse and buggy times versus the Model T Ford. Are you going to stick behind the old horse and buggy, or are you going to jump on the bandwagon with the Model T Ford so that you literally don't get left in the dust? And Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's really neat to see what came out of last week. I mean, we're talking tonal analysis, we're talking automated meeting summaries, and we're talking AI that can help coach your sales team on how to speak better, or what to say better, or present better. I mean, it's really cool technology, and I just think we have to embrace it. It's not going to slow down. I actually think it's going to do nothing but speed up, and it's all in our best interest for our own businesses, as well as for our clients and their clients and their users, to make sure that we're incorporating this. I can tell you here at OneFirefly, we're researching, we're R&Ding, we're looking at every product and process in our company and determining where can AI help us be better, faster, stronger. Yeah. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And that was evident after this week, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be remiss without mentioning Google. I don't have anything against Google. I've just not used Bard. They were showing that off as well. Has anybody else here used Bard?
I've kicked it.
Yeah, I've had some family members use it, and
30-second comparison to ChatGPT.
I mean, they basically can do the same. They have similar capabilities. It's about some of what might get revealed to you in terms of attitude behind it, because you can't help but understand the people behind it, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of how certain things might be answered. But,
okay.
What's the difference between Chrome and Firefox?
Yeah, and I think, one of these, fast, language, kind of really large language models is, a lot of these things probably end up converging in many ways because they're learning from one another. So probably part of the reason why, folks like Elon and others may have been willing to sign the letter last week, because, as much as there's no going back, there's also all the other implications of all those kind of large language models converging. And then, it's really hard to know what is real and what isn't real. I mean, it's great when you can have intent, and you're able to initiate something using some of those tools. That's probably at the moment like almost one of the better things you can handle. But if you're going to use it right now, it's like you got to trust but verify, and I'm still in the verify stage. I think I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but yeah, I'm still working through where is the real value, and at home, at work, those kinds of things.
Yeah. And as somebody who's spent a couple of decades making content, the introduction of video now, it's very rudimentary, but AI created video, and obviously AI created graphics. Again, rudimentary, but it's getting there, and we've all seen, the speed at which these computers can and these programs can learn. So. Next story comes to us from our friend Dave Haynes over at 16.9, a Canadian startup called VueReal. They are demoing a tech that prints micro-LED displays as fine as 30,000 lights per square inch. Oh my goodness, this is almost as exciting as OLED. And if you've ever listened to AVWeek, you know how much I love OLED. This approach promises to, quote unquote, revolutionize the display industry by offering unprecedented levels of resolution and energy efficiency. And this is where this really gets cool, as well as design flexibility. The printing technique cuts down on cost. And as Dave Haynes from 16.9 points out, potential applications include consumer electronics, automotive, medical devices, also paves way for a new era of ultra high definition display technology. Bren, I'm 100% starting with you on this, because that whole design aspect and 30,000 lights per square inch, what can you do with that, and how exciting or how non-exciting is that?
It's funny, there's a lot that we haven't even realized with what we have already in terms of like shooting these screens and using them for production, right?
100%.
So it's I'm actually more excited by the fact that they're a Canadian company. And thinking about what we were just talking about in terms of AI and the idea that this is being manufactured in Canada, I think it's an exciting. I wish I had a manufacturing play right now, because I think it's an exciting time to be a manufacturer, where we're at this tilt where you're relying less on human beings doing individual things and more on automated processes, right? And the fact that there's more being done with automated processes levels the field in terms of cost advantages that you might be up against with competitors outside of North America. So that's the part that I actually find exciting, is that can we see more of that happening in North America? While we recognize that, you know, everybody is dealing with a blended process probably in terms of some components are coming from other different parts of the world, whatever. But yeah, that's the part that's exciting to me. I think it's 30,000. I mean, it's sort of like we have this constant conversation with folks who they want 4K cameras, but they're not sending a 4K signal anywhere.
Nope.
You know, it's sort of the same. I think we might be there on that aspect of it, but only a matter of time, right? So,
Brent, I want to pick on something you said there. Why is I have my opinions on why North American manufacturing is important. Why is that exciting? Like, why is it exciting to you? Good Lord, that a technology like this is happening, and let's be frank here, in Canada, right? A country that has had some significant technological advances over the years. That is where the BlackBerry came from, right? That is where the smartboard came from. A number of other ones. It's also where Alanis Morissette came from, but that's a whole nother conversation. Why is that exciting?
Well, because I think that there's maybe some romanticism about having tangible things manufactured where you live.
Okay.
And I think that there's a longing for that, for people have that longing to know that things are, quote, made here. And that's not to say that you're excluding anywhere else. Yeah. It's more about, and I think it's more about what the future actually can be in terms of having manufacturing that is more effective, that is cleaner, that it allows a country like ours that has a very small population in a big area to still be a significant player when it comes to innovating in a field. And there's so much that happens when, I think with any sort of design or iterative process, there's so much that happens when you are experiencing it in the process of iteration versus here's my design, now I'm sending it to China, or I'm sending it to Indonesia, and there's going to be some work there, then it's going to come back to me, then we're going to have this process, versus I'm just going to fly to Toronto for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to sit there and we're going to iterate there. So from a design standpoint, I think it's exciting to be able to have it that close.
Jessica, same kind of question here is why is that exciting, and how does that, Jessica's OneFirefly, their main customer are dealers, right? They're integrators, both on the residential side and the commercial side. How does that help them, right? And how does that help, their customers, whether it's a multi-million-dollar house or it's a corporate infrastructure that somebody's putting up? How does it help, folks down the line to understand where it's coming from, whether that is, as Bren said, Canada, the U.S., and let's just pick on all of North America, U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
Yeah, I think, Bren, you touched on something very interesting, is that I think a lot of folks are proud to purchase products and work with brands and companies that are from North America, are from your own country. I also think from our dealers' perspective, I imagine supply chain is a lot more controllable, knowing it's coming from your own country and not always coming overseas. And that, of course, really helps them because they've taken a lot of heat this past year or two, right, with supply chain issues and lack of availability of certain products. So from my standpoint, from a dealer standpoint, having what I would imagine would be faster, easier access to the supplies and to the products that they then put into solutions for their end users. You're getting a happier end user. They're getting their products more quickly. The solutions are going to be more complete, right? We're not partially shipping things. Ideally, we can get them full shipments. And at the end of the day, a happy customer is a happy dealer. They can turn projects more quickly. They can collect revenue more quickly. So I see from their standpoint, it would be for sure a win-win to be able to get access to products more quickly, especially from the supply chain issue standpoint. And then, of course, the pride of it. I think Bren really touched on a great point there. People are proud to support companies and brands that are from their own country or from North America.
The other thing, and Derek, I'm going to pick on you here last. The other part of this that I have learned over the years that I did not know when, quite frankly, when I was a little, I was, worked for a small community college. We didn't have to worry about stuff like this. But it's also the federal, both Canadian federal and U.S. federal. There are certain limitations that you cannot install in federal installations, right? Depending on where it's manufactured, depending on where the components come from, and having, Canadian government saying, yes, 100%, we can use this display because it was made in our backyard. 100%, right? Absolutely. Derek, same kind of question here. Why does this matter? Why does manufacturing in the U.S., why does it manufacturing in Canada, why does manufacturing locally matter?
It's a little bit of what we said. There are some projects that just require you to have something that's been manufactured in North America. That's just because what the purchasing authority or the customer requires. For a company like us, we have the flexibility to manufacture in many different places because we have facilities and employees in those places. And so for us, it's actually it's a game of logistics and planning. The last few years for our whole industry has really been all about, I don't know, maybe some of the new realities of logistics. What happens when a single element of your supply chain breaks down, when our entire industry was accustomed to just-in-time delivery of nearly anything. The cool thing I think about being able to print a display is it's like an additive manufacturing process. Like, imagine, I don't know, Jessica, you're working with a reseller and they have to go implement a display, and Bren and her team have designed that display into a project. And it's like, well, hold on, I'll send the instructions over and we'll print that today and it'll be at the job site. I don't know when, sometime soon. I mean, to me, that is that solves a lot of problems. It solves that I don't need to maybe warehouse the materials that you might otherwise need if you had to keep it on a shelf. Maybe it changes the dynamics of how you could deliver a project and maybe who would need to be there to do it. And maybe it could be more accommodating to timing. Because we know that the construction industry at times can be pretty inefficient.
What?
Well, I'm sorry. That's right. You're probably right. But the supply, the being able to work within the industry that we operate in, and our technology really doesn't get implemented. The final things that people get to see and experience until just about every other element of the project is complete. But before it would be the exception. Now it's the expectation to have that technology in place. So, and maybe some of this has to do with the whole AI topic we talked about. I mean, maybe, there's smart ways to be able to do many things in our industry that, there's just, maybe some upcoming opportunity to learn about and explore. But gosh, the idea that we have something that looked like, years ago you would have called something with print on paper. It'd be a copying machine. And now I see the image that's in this article and it looks like a copying machine, except it's printing a high resolution display. I mean, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple minutes here. And I want to drill down on something. And if nobody has an answer for this, that's okay too. Because one of the things that I've learned about this podcast, particularly AVWeek, the number of people who listen to it outside of the States. So I'm going to try to turn this a little bit. I have learned that there are other countries that have made in X components and made in X initiatives, right? Whether that's the UK, it's Brazil, it's France. Is this something where because Derek is right, this is relatively small when you look at the grand scheme of LED manufacturing. Something like this lend itself to made in France, made in India, made in Australia, to where some of those initiatives make sense for our industry.
There may be some things that you could garner locally that you weren't able to do before, and that changes maybe what things cost. That changes the who, what, where, and how of our project, the life cycle of a typical audiovisual IT related technology, project. We kind of started talking about Enterprise Connect, and there's nothing at Enterprise Connect that isn't but a long lead project. I mean, to adapt a platform, to make the right technology, to have, the right people be able to meet the needs of the users and then to maintain it. Now, those are long-term decisions. If you were able to maybe shorten the life cycle of one element of that, and at scale, maybe for like an enterprise or for a larger organization, I can see how there could be some benefits. And I don't think those benefits necessarily come at the expense of people.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That'll be a good place to stop. Thank you all so much. Bren Walker from Kirkegaard. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or Kirkegaard?
Kirkegaard.com, KIRKEGAARD. You can get me, Bren, at Kirkegaard, or on LinkedIn, Brenda J. Walker.
All right, very good. Mr. Joncas, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Extron?
Just Extron.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, so just look me up, Derek Joncas.
Very good. And Jessica, very good to see you. Thanks for joining a regular one. Jessica was on one at the BLC a couple years ago, but she's joined this one. So thank you. How do people connect with you or OneFirefly?
Yeah, OneFirefly, head to onefirefly.com. I am also on LinkedIn, Jessica Creamy Weiss, or if you're on Twitter, A Slice of Weiss is my handle.
Very nice.
Very nice.
You and Aaron Mayer Moran may compete for the coolest one. So
All right.
hers is smearing on ice.
Oh, that's clever.
There's a roller derby reference in there that I'll let her tell you when you see her at InfoComm. So, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters because at this point I am really excited to be a Bears fan. But go by the website if you would please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Speaking of InfoComm, we will be there, and a lot of you will as well, the 14th through the 16th of June. We will have the AVNation tweet up from 4 to 6 on the 14th at the Orange County Convention Center. You can find out more information about that on the website as well. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.